Hello and welcome to another episode of Dr. Karn. Today I'm joined with a special guest known as the Living Smurf. Please welcome Francine Griven.
It's a pleasure to be introduced by you, Dr. Karn.
With that, let's get into what incarnation. So you say your skin is blue due to what again? I don't remember the name.
It's actually a pretty complex name, Methemaglobenemia.
Of course, that was the name. Can you tell us a little bit more about your condition, other than the fact that it makes you look like a living Smurf?
Of course. So methemaglobenemia is, in simple terms, caused when hemoglobin is unable to release oxygen effectively to body tissues, and the result is the appearance of having blue skin. It's not that I'm an actual Smurf or anything. It's all scientific.
Okay, so what part of the body does
Methemaglobenemia?
Right, that. What part of the body does it generally affect?
It only affects the red blood cells. There are actually different degrees of this condition. I have a very high amount of methemoglobin, but everyone has at least less than 1% of methemoglobin.
What exactly are the symptoms of this disease?
There are actually a handful of symptoms that I struggle with on a daily basis. I constantly struggle with headaches, shortness of breath, nausea, rapid heart rate, fatigue, confusion, and loss of consciousness.
I can't imagine having to deal with that. What happens in your body because of this condition?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, my red blood cells contain more than 1% of methemoglobin, which is above the average amount that a human body should have.
I see. I recently watched a science documentary on mutations. Does this condition have any involvement with mutations?
Yes, my condition is caused by mutation in the CYB5R3 gene.
Yes, that's what I thought. Also, the documentary mentioned something about sex-linked genes.
No, as I mentioned earlier, it's caused by a mutation in the CYB5R3 gene, which is autosomal recessive and is not sex-linked. Methemaglobenemia is apparent in both males and females. The gene is located on the 22nd chromosome and can be recessive or dominant depending on the type of the condition.
I see. Is it possible that this condition can be treated through medication or gene therapy?
Not fully. The condition is benign, and there is no effective treatment for people with a congenital form who develop an acquired form. This means that they should not take specific drugs. People who acquire methemaglobenemia from medications can completely recover with proper treatment. Some treatments include oxygen therapy, methylene blue, and blood transfusion for extreme cases.
There are two different kinds of methemaglobenemia. There's congenital and acquired. Acquired is more common. While methemaglobenemia acquired is due to an exposure to an oxidant substance, the congenital version is due to low levels of cytochrome B5 reductase, which means this is due to someone inheriting this gene mutation.
Scientists are working to find a cure for this condition. What test did you take to find out that you have this condition, and how did doctors diagnose you?
I went to the doctors for my monthly checkup, and then they said they have to take a direct measurement of how much methemoglobin I have in my system. Using a weird machine called a wavelength co-oximeter.
Here are a few different examples of methemoglobin measured on a wavelength co-oximeter.
Oh, that's pretty scary. How common is it, and is it more apparent in certain groups of people?
Any age, gender, and race can have methemaglobenemia, but it's most common in premature infants and infants younger than 4 months old. I always had methemaglobenemia, but I first noticed it a couple years ago when my doctors diagnosed me with it.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining me, Brandis. I'll see you next time on What Incarnation?